Today we're getting into the latest Tesla news, including the new Model Y out of Giga Berlin, Tesla officially listing the Robotaxi as in development, faster superchargers coming soon, and tons of Tesla games on the way, so let's get into it. First up today, Tesla held their Q2 2022 earnings call on Wednesday and announced another profitable quarter. For cash, they had an operating cash flow less capex of $621 million in Q2, and in total a $0.8 billion increase in cash and cash equivalent in Q2 to $18.3 billion. Profitability was a $2.5 billion operating income with a 14.6% operating margin in Q2. As for the negatives affecting profitability, they note higher raw material, commodity, logistics, and expedite costs, higher per unit fixed costs in Shanghai due to shutdowns, negative FX impact, and Bitcoin impairment. Total production was 258,580, while total deliveries were 254,695. They deployed 106 megawatts of solar, which is very impressive and bigger than the last few quarters, and 1,133 megawatt hours of stationary storage. For California and Texas, Tesla said, "Our Fremont factory made a record number of vehicles in Q2. We see opportunities for further production rate improvements. In Texas, we have added flexibility to produce vehicles with either a structural battery pack or legacy battery pack. The next generation of 4680 battery cell machinery has been installed in Texas and is in the process of commissioning. Factory output in Texas continues to grow." For Shanghai, they of course mention the shutdowns, but say recent equipment upgrades will enable us to continue to increase our production rate further. For Berlin, our team in Germany produced more than 1,000 Model Y vehicles in a single week using 2170 cells. We expect the production rate to continue improving through the rest of the year. For full self-driving, the main note is that the FSD beta is now in the hands of 100,000 Tesla drivers and has driven over 35 million miles. This is growing exponentially. Annual run rates at their factories include 100,000 for Model S and X at Fremont, 550,000 for Model 3 and Y at Fremont, over 750,000 for Model 3 and Y in Shanghai, over 250,000 for Model Y in Berlin, and over 250,000 for Model Y in Texas. Cybertruck, Semi, Roadster, and a new one, Robotaxi and others, are in development. Note that this used to say future product, and most assume this was the $25,000 Tesla. It seems their focus is shifting towards the dedicated Robotaxi, and this furthers what I've thought for some time now based on Elon's comments. I think that they are focused on the Robotaxi since they once again reiterated that FSD will arrive this year. But the $25,000 Tesla could be included in that other part. The earnings report included a number of photos, one of which celebrated Tesla having produced 2 million vehicles at their Fremont factory, a huge milestone. On the call itself, Elon Musk and others talked about a number of things, including the latest for the Cybertruck. Elon once again reiterated that the Cybertruck will possibly be Tesla's best product ever. For the timeline, he is holding that production will be happening by the middle of next year out of Giga, Texas. Not only that, but when asked later on in the call, he talked about first deliveries happening at the same time. I still think that is fairly optimistic, but as always, I'd love to be proven wrong. One particularly interesting quote here came when Elon was talking about manufacturing efficiencies. Of course, Tesla is working hard on manufacturing efficiency with the structural battery pack and megacastings that they are building the future Model Y with, but they are always optimizing. Recently, in response to a teardown of this battery pack, Elon said, "Structural pack is the right overall architecture from a physics standpoint, but it is still far from optimized." Clearly, Tesla is still working towards a perfectly executed product with the best efficiency possible. In regards to where they're at with the megacasting, Elon said, "This journey is not over. We'll bring another level of simplicity and manufacturing improvements with Cybertruck and future products that we're not quite ready to talk about now, but I think will be exciting to reveal in the future." Not only does this give more detail on the Cybertruck, but it confirms some future products that Tesla is of course working on and will unveil in the future. Likely this could be a cheaper vehicle, the Tesla van, or possibly that futuristic dedicated Robotaxi that is now listed as in development for production. There were hints at future products, but the real updates came with Tesla talking about their run rates and improvements with 4680 cells. We'll get more in depth on that a bit later. Next up today, some big news for the 4680 Model Y, specifically in Berlin. We'll get in depth on the status of those battery cells as talked about on the earnings call in a little bit, but first, Tesla completed some upgrades to their Berlin factory recently. They shut down on July 11th for upgrades to that production line that would reduce the amount of time required at each station on the line by half, from 90 seconds down to 45 seconds. The upgrades were scheduled scheduled to be completed on July 22nd and reportedly finished up earlier than expected. A source reporting to Drive Tesla said not only has production restarted, the factory is also kicking off the new processes by building several test vehicles with features that have never before been built at Giga Berlin. This includes a Model Y with a single-piece front casting, a Model Y rear-wheel drive, formerly standard range, as well as a Model Y with a white interior. The single-piece casting was made with machines at Giga Berlin, and this is reportedly the first time they have done this there. It's a big step for the 4680 Model Y and catching the Berlin factory up to where Giga Texas is at, producing many Model Ys with the updated 4680 structural battery pack. The other new things are the single-motor Model Y, which is interesting to see considering the 4680 Model Y shipped from Texas is all-wheel drive. Likely this would be for a standard range rear-wheel drive Model Y with 2170 cells out of Berlin, but we'll have to see. Also, Tesla is now making cars with white interiors. Until now, they've all been black interiors. There is no reported timeline for when these upgrades will truly enter production, but this is a very big step for the Model Y out of Berlin. Tesla has recently scaled up to 1,000 Model Ys per day at Giga Berlin, but this has been with 2170 cells thus far. Soon enough, we could see the updated Model Y coming out of Berlin as well, which will only add to Tesla's production capacity. Next up today, regarding Tesla's 4680 battery cells made in-house, Tesla had a few updates on their Q2 earnings call. For one, they confirmed that they already have enough 2170 battery cells to fulfill current production through the end of this year. This means that 4680 cells are a bonus and won't become important or a true factor in scaling until next year. By the end of the year, though, they are planning to be scaled up to 1,000 4680 battery packs per week at Giga Austin. According to Elon Musk, the second generation 4680 equipment has officially been installed at Giga Texas. For Q3, they are aiming to start production and ramp up through the end of the year. Since it's a new technology, they are facing dozens of small issues that are preventing them from ramping quickly. One example of the new technology is their dry electrode process. Since it's so new, it has many unknowns and it has been difficult, according to Elon, but they are making progress. He specifically said that the outcome is not up for debate, but the timeline is. Cato Road is where Tesla's pilot production factory for 4680 cells is, and where 4680 cells are currently being supplied from for the Model Y. However, this will be changing as Texas and Berlin will have their own dedicated battery lines scaled up in the coming months and years. Tesla said on the call, specific to Texas last quarter, cell equipment was fully installed and commissioned, and we produced our first commissioning car set of cells through the end of the line. Our target for Texas is to begin production this quarter and aim for Texas to be capable of exceeding Cato weekly output before the end of this year. That goal of exceeding Cato Road capacity by the end of the year is big and very impressive, especially since Tesla described how Cato has increased production by 35% month over month each month since March of this year. What's important to keep in mind is that while Tesla talked about many advantages coming with 4680 cells, those are still going to be a ways off. For now, 4680s are simply going to help with demand and help on top of what Tesla is doing with suppliers. Elon was clear about this and how they still want suppliers to grow output as fast as they possibly can, up and down the entire supply chain. Battery supply is ultimately what will hold back any electric vehicle company from scaling, and Tesla said they now have a good chance of exiting this year at a rate of 40,000 cars made per week. This year, they've had many weeks where production hit 30,000, so they're shooting for 40,000 a week as Shanghai and Fremont optimize and Berlin and Austin scale. It's not the most exciting news from a new product perspective, but Tesla's focus at the moment is all about scaling and catching up on demand for the Model Y. Even with the high price, they keep seeing insane demand, but soon enough, Tesla may finally be able to lower prices. On July 15th, Elon Musk responded to a tweet about Tesla's price increases, saying, "If inflation calms down, we can lower prices for cars." In regards to the timing of this, obviously that's been up in the air, but when talking about it on the earnings call, he said, "If I were to guess, and I would take this with a grain of salt, I think inflation will decline towards the end of this year. We are certainly seeing prices of commodities trending lower. As for vehicle prices as a result," he added, "if we see indications that the inflation rate is declining, then we would not need to increase our car prices. It's possible that there could be a slight decrease in car prices, but this is fundamentally dependent on macroeconomic conditions. Inflation, it's not something we can control." My personal hope is that by the time Tesla is able to lower prices, they are further along with 4680 cells and can sell the standard range Model Y under $60,000. This will be an extremely popular option for them and will allow many more people to get a great crossover SUV from Tesla. The current long-range entry price in the US is $66,000, which is a lot. Ultimately as well, getting the standard range Model 3 back under $40,000 would be huge as well. Next up today, some big news for gaming in Teslas. Tesla has included games for a long time in all of their cars, and they are there for fun or to play when charging. For the most part, the games have been fairly straightforward, but even on the Model 3 and Y, games like Beach Buggy are pretty involved, far more involved than any other car you can buy, of course. In any case, when Tesla announced the refreshed Model S and X, they introduced it with an updated touchscreen and yoke steering wheel, and what they called console-grade gaming. Up to 10 teraflops of processing power unlock in-car gaming on par with today's newest consoles. Play from any seat with wireless controllers and headset capability. Now, some of this is still up for debate, like headset capability. I've yet to see anyone demonstrate this, and I don't think it's included in software yet, just like most of what they actually talk about here. While these cars do include an updated AMD RDNA 2 chip, on par in some ways with a PS5 or Xbox Series X, there is no way to actually utilize this chip in these cars. Tesla, still a full year after launching the Model S Plaid, does not include games that they have shown as included, like Witcher. At the launch event for this car, they talked about PS5 level performance and demoed Cyberpunk 2077 being played on the Model S. All very cool demos, but something that has not been delivered to any customers. Right now, the games are the same as any Tesla. While this is frustrating, Tesla may be rewarding customers for the wait. Back in February, Elon Musk said, "We're working through the general case of making Steam games work on a Tesla versus specific titles. Former is obviously where we should be long term." Steam integration would mean immediate access and compatibility with a slew of games. When asked specifically if the Cybertruck will have Cyberpunk, he said 100%. In any case, this past week, in response to a video demoing games on a Tesla, Elon Musk said, "We're making progress with Steam integration, demo probably next month." In classic Tesla fashion, I would assume this ends up a bit delayed, but this is very exciting to hear. For some, gaming on a Tesla doesn't matter at all, but for others, it's very exciting, especially if they can get it working properly with the rear screen gaming on its own. It would be very popular for families. For myself, this integration is exciting for the long-term implications of full self-driving and having great entertainment built into the car, but for the short term, I want to see it arrive because Tesla advertises this feature. They still show The Witcher on screen on their website and showed off Cyberpunk being played at the launch event. When comparing the specs to a PS5 or Xbox Series X, it does hold its own, and it feels like a waste to have that computer included in these cars with nothing to utilize it. It's exciting to see progress here, and soon enough, these cars could expand from a few games to a few thousand games. Next up today, some big news for Tesla supercharging. At this point, Tesla mostly installs V3 superchargers. These support charging speeds up to 250 kilowatts, which is incredible, but still slower than some other charging networks being built. As Tesla detailed on their earnings call, global Tesla supercharger locations have been growing a lot. Looking back around a year, we can see locations have grown around 1,000, which is incredibly impressive given multiple stalls at each location. In June, Tesla opened more than one new supercharger station every day in China. They are doing similar in other markets, and you can follow their account Tesla Charging to see updates about the thousands of locations they are opening constantly. It's great for Tesla owners, but they also reiterated their plans to open this network, saying, "To help accelerate the transition to sustainable energy even faster, we are excited to open up our global, fast-growing network to other EV customers." In any case, Tesla isn't stopping with V3 250 kilowatt chargers. This week, plans for Tesla's newest V4 superchargers leaked. This was revealed as part of a construction plan on a new station in Massachusetts. Tesla has talked about pushing superchargers to 300 or 350 kilowatts, as well as integrating CCS connectors to their superchargers in North America. This would allow them to charge any electric vehicle, whether they use CCS or the Tesla connector. On the plans, we can see the design of the V4 charger. It will look a lot like the urban superchargers Tesla has, but will stand quite a bit taller than V3 chargers. Here's a side-by-side of V4 chargers with V3. Note that it says alternative Tesla supercharger post. This is because it appears Tesla submitted plans for both V3 and V4 chargers so that they are covered regardless of which they choose to build at this particular location. Notably, the V4 charger is larger as mentioned, but it also includes a much longer cable. This will come in handy for the larger than usual Cybertruck, but also pretty much any other EV using a Tesla supercharger. It'll be interesting to see all the upgrades this would bring, but likely it will include the updated charging speeds and CCS connector option. Last up today, Ford announced that they have secured 60 gigawatt hours of battery supply. This will help them to achieve an annual production rate of 600,000 EVs by the end of 2023. Quote, building on strong demand for its new EVs, Ford today announced a series of initiatives for sourcing battery capacity and raw materials that light a clear path to reach its targeted annual run rate of 600,000 electric vehicles by late 2023 and more than 2 million by the end of 2026. Split between the EVs they are currently making for 2023, This should look like 270,000 Mach-E's, 150,000 Ford F-150 Lightnings, 150,000 Transit EVs, and 30,000 of a new SUV for Europe. Part of the reason they were able to secure this much is because they are actually adding LFP batteries into the mix, much like Tesla does. Ford is adding lithium iron phosphate cell chemistry to its portfolio alongside its existing nickel cobalt manganese chemistry. This creates even more capacity for high demand products and provides customers many years of operation with minimal range loss. It also reduces the reliance on scarce critical minerals such as nickel, and at current costs brings a 10 to 15% bill of material savings for Ford versus NCM batteries. They have their full list of cell suppliers on an infographic they posted, and many of those cells are coming from China and North America. Some notable suppliers include CATL, LGES, and Blue Oval. This is great to see for Ford because the basic securing of batteries is the most essential piece for ramping up EV production. Assuming Tesla does hit their goal of 40,000 EVs a week by the end of this year that we talked about earlier, that would mean in 2023 they can make roughly 2 million cars a year or a little more. Ford is planning to hit those numbers by late 2026. That's all the latest Tesla news for today, so in the meantime, if you want to see what happened to the $25,000 Tesla, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.